Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on unlocking the potential of pulses, innovations in smart proteins. I am Akash Raj Bhopre, your moderator for today, and I work as corporate engagement associate at GFI India. And I'm thrilled to be taking you through this insightful session. Today, we are diving deep into the world of pulses and the critical role in the future of food sustainability, health, and innovation. Pulses. Dals are a part of our everyday diet, be it dal chawal or dal roti. A meal just feels incomplete without our beloved dal, right? We have been consuming these indigenous crops for centuries, and the way we consume it hasn't changed much over the time. But with developments in food science and technology, the pulses are becoming the shining stars in the smart protein sector and a sustainable future of food. So, as we start realizing impacts of climate change and resource-intensive agriculture, these climate-resilient indigenous crops are of more importance than ever. Pulses are going to play an important role in the future of proteins and how we will understand from our speakers today. First, I will introduce you to our GF Ideas community. So GF Ideas India is a community of innovators who are transforming our food system by creating or expanding access to smart protein solutions. The aim of this community is to advance the smart protein ecosystem in India. We offer entrepreneurs, investors, industry professionals, students, researchers, subject matter experts, and service providers the opportunity to connect with each other and share advice and resources to help them create a good food business. We will be also dropping a link to join GF Ideas community in the chat box. So please watch out for it and join this great community. So today's session is intended to provide a holistic overview of the pulse protein sector. We will explore how the grass is on other side, right from the extraction processes to the smart protein applications of pulses and the market opportunities. If you are a stakeholder in pulse processing value chain at any stage, be it a dal miller, trader, entrepreneur, a researcher, or a student, this session is for you. And we are honored to have with us these three distinguished speakers, each leading expert in their field, who will share their knowledge, experiences, and vision for the future of pulse proteins. So without further ado, let me introduce them to you. First, we have Dr. Pranesh Sridharan, Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of Alternative Protein Innovation Center. Next, we have Mr. Umesh Rode, Senior Manager of Applications and Development at Proyon Foods. And then we have Mr. Vijay Iyengar, President of Global Pulse Co-Federation and Founder and Managing Director at AgroCorp International. Now, without any delay, let's get started with the presentations. And we will be taking questions at the end of session. So please put your questions in the Q&A box. So introducing you to our first speaker, Dr. Pranesh Sridharan, Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of Alternative Proteins Innovation Center, a visionary in alternative proteins and sustainability. Dr. Pranesh brings over 25 years of experience in the food ingredients industry. Having led protein and sustainability initiatives across continents, he has experience in working with companies like SmithKline, Microlabs, Cadila, Orchid Chemicals, DSM, Lazing, and Dabur. His expertise in plant protein extraction are unparalleled. His dedication has translated into groundbreaking work in the plant protein extraction and valorization, significantly contributing to the sustainable development of sustainable food systems. Dr. Pranesh will share his insights on establishing a plant protein extraction facility, the key consideration from the technological process to the economical viability. So please extend a warm welcome to Dr. Pranesh Sridharan, a trailblazer in plant-based innovations. Over to you, Dr. Pranesh.
Thank you, Mr. Akash. Indeed, a pleasure to join this August meeting, and thanks for providing this opportunity. Taking a few seconds to share my screen now.
Sure, Doctor.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, Dr. Pranesh.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for all the participants who have joined in, and we are really glad to see more than 100 people register and it's a huge audience and shows the interest of the stakeholders in this sector, and which is growing day by day. And to give you a quick brief, I am Dr. Pranish Shidran, and thanks Akashji for the introduction. I am one of the co-founders of APIC, Alternative Proteins Innovation Center. We are located in the biotech hub of Bengaluru with a completely integrated facility. As Akashji mentioned, I have about 25 plus years experience in nutrition and ingredients business across continents and with leading companies. My protein journey started with Smith & Bicham in 1990s, early 90s. So with peanut protein, and it's been in various proteins at various companies. And so my expertise lies in protein extraction, applications, valorization of biomass, and setting up a manufacturing unit right from lab to commercial scale. Coming to the key points, just to give a brief, I think all of us are aware, but the key growth drivers for plant proteins globally are the shift towards sustainable food sources, growth in demands due to high per capita income, growing per capita income, particularly in the developing world, and people are shifting towards a healthier vegan food option. So that is also a key driver, a trend which is driving the protein consumptions. Why India and why pulses? I'm sure most of us who are Indians who are on the in this meeting know very well that India is one of the largest growers of pulses. I'm sure Mr. Vijay Iyengar will throw more light on this, but from my knowledge, India has more than 20 different types of pulses growing. And more than 25% of the global pulse production happens in India. So ideally, India is well positioned to get higher value out of these pulses and serve the global market. Particularly if you're looking at the raw material for new age plant-based proteins, or we call it as a third generation proteins. Then look at chickpeas, mung bean. India is one of the largest producers, particularly desi chickpea. And these varieties have significant cost advantages as well over the globally used, for example, kabuli chana. Other than this, then we have multiple sources. Particularly, I would like to highlight a few of them. One is hyacinth bean, which is extensively grown in southern part of India. It's a drought crop. So these are all highly sustainable, which require very little water. Pigeon peas, horse gram, lentils, tur dal. All these have a huge potential to address the protein need of the global population. Because of this, like India has been the pharmacy of the world now. India has the potential to become the protein capital of the world from pulse sources. Why so many different sources? Each pulse has a different protein property. And we all know that a chickpea protein has a different property from a pea protein, from a mung bean protein. And the more we explore and develop these individual proteins from each of these pulses, it gives a bigger bandwidth, and they can go into multiple different applications based on their functional properties, right from solubility to water binding, gelation, emulsification, or foaming. Each of them have a different property. And based on that, or a blend of these could go into different applications. That is the key strength India can play on, considering the huge range of pulses we have. Developing proteins from these different pulses will give us an opportunity to address different markets and even create new markets for protein applications. Now, coming to the process optimization, globally, we all know that pea, chickpea, mung bean, and now fava bean has been well established. The processes are well established. When we get into these other pulses, we will have to, or even chickpea, for example, when we go from a kabuli chana based process to a desi chana based process, or a pea from, for example, a yellow pea based process to a green or white pea based process, then and other pulses, we might have to optimize those processes, modify those processes to suit these pulses. So that is the challenge. So the extraction and isolation process have to be modified right from the pre-processing stage, which is pulverizing, germination, de-husking, Each of these has to be customized to each of the pulses depending on their characteristics. Then the extraction itself, the reactor design or the extraction parameters, your heat, your water volume, whatever it is, all this has to be modified, optimized for each of these pulses. The enzyme use again has to be modified or adapted. Maybe even different enzymes should be required for different pulses, depending on their composition. The separation, which is a very critical factor in protein isolation and concentration, again would require a significant amount of modification and optimization. Drying would require some tailor-made solutions because some of these would have a higher starch content, some would have a lower starch content and maybe higher fiber content. And most importantly, it's not just the protein, but then when you're looking at pulses, there's a huge value in the side streams. So the valorization of the side streams from these pulses will play a very key role. So at Topic, we are currently doing tailor-made solutions to the industry. Just to share that we are already working with about 15 partners or clients for whom we are developing processes. Now, why India? Again, as India has changed the cost dynamics of the pharma industry, I'm just taking a parallel globally. India has the potential to change the cost dynamics in the protein industry globally. Particularly so because our cost of raw material can be lower with a widening base of pulses, and cost of capex can be significantly lower. Particularly some of the equipments, critical equipments, now we have developed an ecosystem by which we can manufacture all these critical equipments in India by Indian manufacturers. So the capex can be less than 50% of the global standards. With a lower capex and with a lower raw material cost, and obviously with a lower operating cost, our cost of proteins can significantly be lower than the global standards. Why this is important is because today one of the key challenges in protein reaching the masses is the cost factor. If the current, I'm just taking pea protein as an example, if there's somewhere around 750 to 1000 rupees per kg, if it can be brought around 300 or 350, then the volume can go up significantly. The adaptation in different applications can go up significantly. I mean, the quality proteins. That is possible with Indian ecosystem, which is currently developed. And more importantly, when we work with Indian manufacturers, the indigenous manufacturers, we are able to customize the machinery as per the requirements. That's a huge positive, which sometimes is challenging with the global suppliers. At APIC, we have been enabling the ecosystem of equipment manufacturers. We have developed a reliable network of equipment manufacturers, right from pulverizers to decanters and separators and ultrafiltration and microfiltration systems. So the new frontiers of protein are, other than protein per se, the new frontiers would be like dairy alternatives. We are already working on it. Chickpea has already been used extensively globally in proteins, in dairy alternatives, but some of our other pulses have good potential. Second, some of these pulses have fat. Now, this fat we need to characterize and maybe modify to be used as a fat replacement for animal-based fat in the meat-based applications. Fibers have a huge potential because significant part of these pulses are fibers. And vitamins and minerals, again, a very cost-effective source other than the starch. So we need to really look at the wholesome development, complete valorization, look at it as a pulse refinery rather than just a protein from pulse. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pranesh. And in fact, very important point, a pulse refinery or a alternative protein refinery than just proteins. We have to look at all the ingredients. And thank you, Dr. Pranesh, for taking us through this extraction process considerations and insights on potential that lies with the different raw materials. The great ingredients are starting point to the great end products, and I am sure that innovations in ingredients space will help us address the concerns related to taste, price, and nutrition of the smart protein products. Next, we are honored to have Umesh Rode, Senior Manager of Applications and Development at Proyon Foods, join us. He has nearly 11 years of impactful contributions to the food ingredients industry and has worked with companies like Dollar, Tata Tesco, and Bakels India. At Proyon Foods, Umesh has been pivotal in pioneering plant-based applications and the value-added products, opening new avenues for market engagement and product development. Today, Umesh will delve into the innovative applications of pulses in the smart protein realm. Let's welcome Umesh Rode, a key innovator in the smart protein ingredients space. Over to you, Umesh.
Thank you so much, Akash, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, Dr. Pranesh, for taking us and showing the highlights of the entire Pulse refinery, as you rightly said. So I'm just putting up my presentation. So, Akash, can you confirm if you can see the screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you all of the participants for being present today for this wonderful session. And along with me, I have distinguished speakers from the industry. So without taking much of a time, I'll just take you through the gist of the product development process, the essence, the challenge, and what are the areas which are primarily looked in order to develop any kind of application in case of a plant-based proteins. So we all know that 10 around world population of 10 billion people, only the animal-based food systems can't satisfy the needs of the entire population. If we replace the current food system with the plant-based system, we can have a huge impact on the environment as well as the overall ecosystem. The current challenges when we talk about the barriers in order to use the plant-based ingredients into various formulation or overall formulations in plant-based applications. So according to the study, most of the people, they don't like the taste which is not similar to their expectations. Second most important barrier is the ingredient costs, which are too expensive, and some people or majority of the consumers, they feel that these are too processed or they have too much of a longer ingredient list. So in order to solve the challenge, there are three main characteristics that we can have in a ingredient basis. And these challenges can be solved, like the poor nutrition profile or the poor sensory profile or functional profile. If it can be addressed through the ingredient itself, that can have a huge impact on the end product application. So this is our vision to be present as the sustainable protein ingredient in at least 1 meal per day of every family globally. And our mission is to bring to market affordable and best quality proteins to solve the global protein challenges as I have said earlier. I'll not take much time on explaining, but these are the main pointers when we talk about the plant-based proteins. And of course, I have talked about the challenges. One of the major reason is the digestibility issues when we talk about different set of proteins. The textural characteristics such as bitter or a beany taste or unpleasant mouthfeel, and of course the import dependencies and supply chain consistency, and that is leading to the price volatility. And where we have innovated mung bean protein in India, which is having a high digestibility, clean taste, which is locally produced, and of course the maintained supply chain as well as the consistent pricing. I'm taking one classic example to explain why the approaches which I have explained, the functionality, the sensory, the nutritional characteristics are important while formulating any plant-based application. As Dr. Pranesh has rightly pointed out in his slides, the different functionalities which are needed in order to formulate any product, such as emulsification, foaming capacity, or a gelation, like that. So I'll just delve into those characteristics. So when we talk about egg application and keeping in mind the complexity of the formulation, when we are developing any plant-based egg type of application, the major challenge is to mimic the taste, having the nutrition, and having the exact cooking characteristics like egg. And here again, I'm taking it as an example, and I'll explain more of a use cases for the ingredient in different food matrices. So these are the current challenges with eggs globally, and outside India, many countries, they are looking for different alternatives in order to replace eggs in different set of formulations or food systems. So when we developed this egg-based or a premix for a vegan egg, we, in order to have that, our target was to achieve the cooking time less than 2 minutes or exceptional gelation uh, and an equivalent protein content to that of comparable to egg. Of course, no cholesterol or allergen-free formulation. So in order to have that gelation or emulsification characteristics, which are more important in terms of a performance of the ingredient in the end product. So gelation, emulsification, as well as foaming, and the no additives which are being used while extracting the protein, or harsh processes uh, which have been used while extracting protein, so as to retain the native structure of the protein, and to avoid the further denaturation during the process, which results into the superior performance. So when we talk about mostly the applicability of any ingredient, what we are currently focusing is, of course, the solubility, and each functionality has its impact on the end application or a targeted application. Let's say, take an example, when you are formulating a plant-based RTM mix or a plant-based nutritional shake. Most of the gym goers nowadays, they take whey-based, let's say, shakes, or there are multiple players in the market who are using plant-based ingredients such as rice, pea, and other combinations. And the major challenge we see is the solubility, or the gritty mouthfeel, or chalky taste. And solubility is very much important to overcome that challenge and have a cleaner taste profile when it is formulated, as well as when the end consumer uh, uses it for its daily nutrition purpose. Uh, Excellent emulsion capacity of the ingredient is very much important in case of making an application such like mayonnaise, like um, different kinds of spreads or plant-based spreads. So emulsification becomes a very important criteria uh, in order to overcome the separation of oil and water, separation from the formulation. Foaming capacity, of course, again, in terms of mayonnaise type application or egg type application, which is very much important. So at Proyon, we have, and I have explained already that the extreme conditions for extracting proteins can hamper the overall results which we are expecting in the application or the functionality. So at Provion, we have innovated a novel process to extract the proteins in a gently manner using a completely water-based or a no solvent extraction process, no high temperature, no harsh pH conditions, so that the functionality, again, which I have explained, can be retained throughout the end product and then reflect into the application. Yeah. So as I explained, solubility is an important criteria in terms of formulations such as RTM or a oats premix, coated oat premix, or granola mixtures. When we coat any protein while dissolving along with other ingredients and coat it on a granola. So some customers in India, they have started using plant-based ingredients to coat plant-based proteins to coat on the oats or a muesli type of formulation or a granular type formulation, where solubility again plays a very vital role. Foaming, of course, in terms of mayonnaise and applications like that, and high emulsion capacity or a high gelling capacity is required in plant-based egg type of applications or yogurt type of applications. And of course, the least gelatinization concentration can be a very vital factor in terms of producing a plant-based egg type of application, where when we need to reduce the time to cook, like a normal egg, it takes hardly 30-40 seconds to start gelling, and within 1 minute, you can make a scramble. So to target that, you have to have a least gelation concentration for your protein, and that can help you reduce the overall cooking time and the performance of the product. Oil holding or a water holding capacity can be a very much important factor, or in terms of producing applications such as peanut butters or peanut butters using plant-based proteins, or granola bars or protein bars, energy bars, protein bars, where you need to have a very good binding strength throughout the process and throughout the cutting and towards the end of the shelf life of the product inside the packet. So its structure should not be integrated, and that's where oil holding as well as the water holding capacity is important. And these are the type of functionalities which are needed in order to address, as I said, the different application demands in plant-based food matrices. Of course, we will take some questions in the end of this session. And please write your concerns or write any questions that you have in the comment section, and we can take it. We can answer that. And thank you so much for your for attending again. And over to you, Akash, for the taking up next speaker. Just a
Thank you so much, Umesh ji, and such diverse applications, right? And so many functionalities to consider. Even a small change in the composition will cause a huge impact on the end product. And this is certainly an area for a lot of innovation. And I hope that we will continue to explore these applications and create products that are acceptable to the masses. And then last but certainly not the least, we have Mr. Vijay Iyengar, President of Global Pulses Co-Federation GPC, and the founder and chairman of AgroCorp International. A true visionary, Mr. Vijay has dedicated his career to advancing the pulse industry, advocating for sustainability and enhancing the global food security through the promotion of pulses. His leadership at GPC and AgroCorp has been instrumental in driving significant advancements in the global agri-commodity market. Mr. Vijay's commitment to sustainable food systems is really commendable, and his efforts to promote pulses through key global initiatives have made a profound impact. Today, he will provide us with the strategic insights into the global pulse protein market and how pulse-based proteins should be positioned to maximize the awareness and the impact. So please welcome Mr. Vijay Iyengar. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you very much. I must congratulate GFI on the good work that they are doing. And of course, the two presentations made by Dr. Pranesh and Mr. Umesh were of great importance to us as they dealt with daily issues that we are confronting in our pulse protein journey. Let me start off by sharing my screen first. So at GPC, we are constantly working on unlocking the potential of pulses. And this is something which is of great importance to us. Let me start off by talking a little bit about GPC. We have close to 500 members in over 50 different countries. We have 40 different national organizations with different priorities, and all of which contribute to a vibrant ecosystem discussing pulses, discussing production and consumption of pulses, and discussing the importance of pulses in global food security. So let me start off by underscoring the importance of pulses by talking about what was agreed in the Paris Climate Change Agreement. 197 countries pledged to limit the temperature increases to 1.5% by 2100. And to achieve this, it was agreed that the emissions needed to be at 45% from 2010 levels. We needed to achieve it by 2030. What have we achieved by now? Global year-to-date temperature anomalies for 2023. We have the 10 warmest years on record, and we know what we've experienced this year and late last year. So this sets the backdrop to whatever we are discussing now. Let us look at global progress across sectors. We all recognize that it's not happening at the pace and scale that we need to achieve what we need to limit warming to 1.5 degrees. The only place where some amount of achievement has been achieved is basically in the share of electrical vehicles in the passenger car sales. That's the only place where we have achieved something. We have achieved increase in crop yields, but that needs to be significantly improved. Public financing for fossil fuels is definitely increased, which is contrary to what we want to achieve. The other area where some amount of progress has been is in Russia and Germany and Indonesia with peatland restoration. So food and agriculture, once again, achievements have been below par in what we need to reduce greenhouse emissions, what we need to increase crop yields, and what we need to reduce ruminant meat consumption. Key solutions, there are top 10 solutions, of which 9 and 10 are what is relevant to us. Reduce food losses and waste, and improve agriculture practices, and to consume more plants and eat less meat. So let me come to what pulses are all about. And here again, in terms of post-farm gate emissions, in terms of production emissions, pulses are really the superstars. Water footprint, again, pulses come at the bottom, and really they are again what is the need of the hour. 43 gallons of water required to produce 1 pound of pulses. Again, superstars indeed. Nitrogen fixation of pulses, we spoke about. What is pulses all about? Pulses also help in getting better yields in crops that follow. Once again, that's something which is what we need to talk about using, pulse. This is why pulse consumption is important, plant protein consumption is important. And, while this may be known to all, but I think this is where, marketing of pulses and pulse protein needs to start. The way forward. All of us in this panel and particularly GFI also and GPC as well needs to increase awareness of the benefits of consuming pulses. We need to move the narrative from vegan to being flexitarian. Vegan, the minute we start talking about veganism and being vegetarian or vegan, means that we are shutting out the rest of the population. And we all need to be talking about pulses consumption, plant protein consumption being at least 20% of our dietary consumptions. And this is how the marketing needs to be focused. The minute we talk about exclusion, in everything, we end up excluding different sections of society. A lot of marketing is being done by GPC, by organizations like Beans Azao, which is part of the UN. We need to be, working in marketing with including pulses protein as being part of the diet, not necessarily the whole diet. So this is something which we continuously talk about. Core consumers for the plant protein, are people whom we have already sold the narrative. But mainstream consumers is where all of us need to focus on. And mainstream consumers are concerned, but not necessarily taking action. And they are held back by barriers such as concerns on taste or convenience. This is something which Umesh touched on as well. This is something which was stressed on by BCG in a study that they released late last year. They are talking about 4 ways to reach mainstream consumers. And that is by limiting vegan and vegetarian labels. They want us to clearly identify the alternate protein source. Vaguely by saying that it's a plant protein is not enough. The consumer wants to know where the core ingredient is and where his food is coming from. We will have to highlight the product sensory appeal, the sense of taste. We'll have to look at what the ingredients of the plant protein is, and we'll have to highlight the health benefits as well. So this is what all of us are concerned about. What do we need as being part of the plant protein industry? We will need the grower to come on board. We will need greater production. One of the conundrums which Mr. Umesh spoke about is reducing the cost paradigm. And the cost paradigm can also be reduced by having greater source of raw material. And all of this comes down to getting better varieties, getting the grower interested, making more seeds available, getting seeds which are drought resistant, which can grow in adverse climatic conditions, reducing the whole the cycle of producing pulses ingredients. All of this is something that work needs to be done, and work is also being done. One of the things is timelines of conventional breeding as opposed to speed breeding, and work is being done in various institutes, various countries, all of which need to be supported. Industry commitment with infrastructure investment for pulses processing facilities and downstream food innovation. This is something which all of us need to work on. Rocket is doing a lot of work. We ourselves have announced a project in Malaysia for which we are doing work in Singapore laboratories. We are working with the Singapore Institute of Technology, where the research is looking at optimizing plant extraction strategies such as enzymatic hydrolysis to extend plant protein functionality, enhance extraction yield, and improve processes, economies, and sustainability. So a lot of work needs to be done. A lot of hands need to come to see how we can, once all of us have bought into what needs to be done, there is a lot of work that needs to be done in reducing costs, in increasing the functionality, in increasing production as well, and increasing investment in production techniques. I think FMCG companies have bought into the narrative. Increasingly, we are seeing food products made with pulse protein, all of which will contribute to the growth of the industry. This is something which I mentioned, what we are doing in Singapore. There's a lot of work that's being done in countries like Australia, where a cooperative research center has been established. In Sydney, there is continuous work that's being done in Saskatchewan and in Alberta. In Canada, I'm sure there's work being done in India. Dr. Pranesh spoke about it. So all of this contributes to the industry and is contributing to bring increased attention to the industry and increased, and reduce the cost paradigms in the industry. What does GPC do? GPC is focusing its attention on pulses, focusing its attention on plant protein. We are increasingly bringing more and more industry participants to the fore. For example, we had the opportunity to present at COP28, where we found a really receptive audience. Our last international convention was in Delhi, in India, in February. We have one in Macau in September in China, where we expect a good Chinese participation. Our next Pulses convention is in the Fairmont Hotel in Singapore. And we urge all of the industry participants, I think industry players to participate, because all of us need to bring increased attention to the industry. We need to increase consumption. We need to increase production of pulses. When we were in India, we saw a lot of interest. We had participation by the government, all of which talked about increased government support to production of pulses. And I think that is also the need of the hour in India in terms of bringing attention, bringing the grower, and making sure that everything that needs to be done in fostering a sustainable environment is done as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijay ji. And after this presentation, I must correct myself. Pulses are not just the stars, but the superstars of the future of food. So right positioning and marketing are the key for success of any product, and in this case, the pulse proteins. Your work as the president of GPC, Global Pulses Confederation, is truly inspirational and important for the planet. I am sure we will see the great developments in the sectors in the days to come. And as you rightly said, Vijay ji, the knowledge shared by all the speakers addresses very fundamental and everyday challenges in the smart protein sector, right from extraction to the market, which I think must have helped all our attendees. So let's take the questions from the participants. So the first question there is, what is the status of dry fractionation of pulse proteins in India at industrial level? As dry fractionation is more sustainable than isoelectric precipitation and derived proteins has high functionality. So would you like to answer this, Dr. Pranesh?
Yeah, very interesting question and a good direction. Dry fractionation in India is yet to take off. There are one or two companies who are trying to enter that space. Definitely, it is less environmental impact, relatively less environmental impact than the wet fractionation. The challenges which come up in that is you have a protein-rich fraction and a starch-rich fraction. The protein-rich fraction maybe reaches at the best maybe 55 to 60%, and then the starch-rich fraction has maybe around 10% protein. So you are left with two fractions which are equally not fully applicable in different applications. So when it comes to applications, you could face challenges. Although some applications it can go into something like a protein bar, maybe again, but then there the gelation, gets affected because the higher the protein content, you get a better gelation. So those challenges come in, and we are yet to see the maturity here, even globally. Although there are some applications globally and some companies doing well, but in India it is yet to start up. There are one or two companies who are trying to start in this. In fact, Akashji knows. At APIC, we are already starting to work with two companies in that space who are working on dry fractionation and optimizing the process.
Can I jump in for a minute? We have been operating a dry fractionation plant in Canada for the last 6 years. So we have been one of the early participants in this industry. You're right about the challenges the dry fractionation faces, because the protein content is maximum 60%. It goes a lot of it goes into the pet food industry, particularly in the US. The starch can be used. Starch marketing is a challenge. A lot of it goes again into the feed industry and can also go into the noodles industry in China. So those are the main applications. Of course, it's a far more environmental friendly application. Isolate production is something that we are investing in now in Malaysia. And the challenge is, of course, to make it more environmental friendly. And I think a lot of work around the world is being done in better quality, in better extraction using the isolate process. So I think a lot of the equipment manufacturers are also doing work on it. So that's something which I think will evolve in the next 2 or 3 years. The Indian industry is stillborn, as you said. A lot of applications, people are mainly using soya. So a lot of the applications is using soya there.
Absolutely. Just to add to what Mr. Iyengar was mentioning, that predominantly what my understanding was, it's going into the animal food industry, pet and other applications. So the price challenges come in, and the more we try to optimize on the protein-rich fraction, the cost also slightly goes up. So your yield comes down. So the machinery manufacturers play a very important role there. And there are one or two Indian machinery manufacturers who are also trying to innovate on that space, but it's a very, very early stage.
Thank you, Vijayji and Dr. Pranesh. So we have a next question. I think it is for Umeshji. So unlike the past, where industries focus on improving the purity of protein isolates to have better functionality, but recent studies suggest that minimal processing with less protein content can exhibit even better functionalities and uses that highly refined protein isolates. So can you share some more insights about minimal processing from a sustainability and flavor changes, anti-nutrients and functionality point of view?
Yes, that's as I explained earlier. So minimal processing leads to, and when we say minimal processing is to avoid, let's say, avoiding the typical solvent extraction or higher pH or extreme harsh condition while extraction of the protein, which can denaturate the protein. during the process. And of course, it affects the overall typical functionality when it comes to either gelation or a solubility or a different exposure to extreme pH conditions can alter, of course, the solubility as well as the emulsification capacity of the protein. And this can be achieved through selecting an approach where there are two ways to look at it. Of course, selecting the right ingredient where you can get a better yield during the process, and applying a process which minimally affects the overall properties and retains the characteristics of the protein during the extraction. And while recovery also ensuring that the extracted proteins don't lose out on the essential characteristics as well as the sensory characteristics, which is of a prime importance, because the acceptability also depends on the sensorical attributes of the as Mr. Deepak has said, ki flavor changes or the acceptability. It is very much important to have control on all those parameters together while designing the extraction process. It's not just looking at the one point and then designing everything. Like, the end product should have a maximum acceptability in terms of maybe it will happen that you can design an approach where you can target a specific functionality. That's a different issue. But having overall acceptable product with minimal denaturation of protein throughout the process and having a better sensorical attributes, that is of a prime importance as per my view.
Thank you, Umesh ji. And I think the next question is for Vijay ji. So this is about, how do you see the pulse protein market evolving, and what can you say about the domestic opportunity in India versus the Indian opportunity, like international opportunity for the Indian players in the pulse processing sector and those who are involved in the pulse protein sector specifically?
At the moment, I see the market for pulse protein evolving rapidly over the next few years. I'm not sure how much of a role India will play in it, because for India, pulses as a raw material is also a matter of food security. So generally, there seems to be more emphasis on direct consumption of pulses. And so unless, there is a specific demand in terms of pulse protein, there seems to be more and more demand in terms of direct consumption, which from a GPC point of view or from a point of view of global sustainability, nutrition, and equity, it fits the bill whether you consume it directly from pulses or you consume it in the form of a protein. So in the Indian market, I think India will take its own time in terms of evolution. So internationally, I think the demand will definitely pick up as there is more and more attention on whatever is happening globally in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and climate change, and using plant protein as an alternative, or definitely, lots of industry participants are now marketing this theme that all of us should at least consume or have 20% of plant protein in our grocery cart. The rest 80% is what it is. But with 20% of your grocery cart being plant-based protein, you can make an impact on greenhouse gas emissions. And that will be well seen in your environment. So with that, I think there will be a increasing scalability in terms of plant protein demand internationally. And that's why we are investing in it. So we are really putting our mouth, where our money, where our mouth is.
Thank you, Vijay ji. So as we are like at the end we have the time limitations and there are so many questions. Maybe I will ask the last questions and we will try to follow up with rest of the questions in the chat box later after this session. So last question, I think anyone of you can try to address this. Like, can consumer perception of ultra processed food diminish the growth rate of pulse based proteins and applications in meat, milk, or egg alternatives? Which is a highly asked question.
I think ultra processed food generally, it doesn't matter about plant protein. It's something which consumers don't like in any type of food. So I guess the global and international narrative is to go in for food which the ingredients are transparent and it's minimally processed with minimal ingredients. So I guess that is what is the ultimate goal of any food, let alone plant-based food. So I think this is something which is the ultimate goal. As more and more research and as there is more and more demand, more and more research will be directed in this direction, and we'll have lots of people working on it. And I'm sure with all our global efforts, we will find solutions. And this is something when there is no final solution. It's going to be work in progress continuously. And it's important for all foods that we have to meet the need of the consumer. And I think that's where we are all headed. And that's something which as I said, we are doing work in Singapore. There is lots of work being done internationally in various laboratories, various nutrition institutes, various universities. So I'm sure that we will find more and more success in that work.
Yes, that's true, Vijayji, and thank you for taking all the questions. So, as this session comes to an end, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today for our webinar, Unlocking the Potential of Pulses Innovations in Smart Proteins. It has been an amazing journey through the discussions, insights, and knowledge exchange that each of our esteemed speaker brought to the table. We want you to go away with this session motivated and informed about the amazing possibilities that pulses have to transform our food systems and be the future of protein production. We sincerely thank each of our speakers for their invaluable contributions to today's webinar. Your knowledge and insights into the world of pulse proteins have enlightened and inspired our attendees to think innovatively. Thank you for taking the time and share your knowledge and experiences, which will help pave the way for more sustainable future in the smart protein sector. Your commitment to the furthering our understanding of pulse valorization is much appreciated, and we are deeply grateful for your participation in making this event a success. I must also thank GPC for their great support. Dear attendees, we value your participations and your thoughtful questions. Though we were not able to answer all of them, I really apologize for that. Please watch for a follow-up email with the recording of today's session, more resources, and opportunities to participate in this fascinating area to continue the discussions. Also, we would encourage you to join our GF Ideas India community, details about which will also be shared with you in the follow-up email. Lastly, I would like to thank all our team at GFI India who are working to build the smart protein sector in India from ground up. Once more, many thanks for your time and energy. Together, let's keep bringing about change and the use pulses to support and nourish our future generations. Enjoy your day, and we hope to see you soon at our next event. Thank you, everyone.